Alright, welcome to the channel. So today we're going to be going through a pretty solid review of all 7 of the Dr. Seuss tables available for the 4K and the HD systems. So these come in packs. They're available for the 4K for $35 for each pack. Pack 1 includes How the Grinch Stole Christmas, The Cat in the Hat, and Fox in Socks. And pack 2 is Green Eggs and Ham, ABC, Oh the Places You'll Go, and One Fish, Two Fish. Red fish, blue fish. Sorry, I forgot the second half of that. Alright, so you have 2 packs. The first one has only 3 games in it, which makes the costs of these games about $11.66 on the 4K system, and $10 each on the HD. So the second pack is a little better value with 4 tables, but anyway, that's something to consider when we buy these packs. But we're going to go through the tables. I'm not going to go through an entire game of each. We'll go through a ball or 2 just to give you a flavor, a little feel for the table. I'll give you a review of each individual table, or a rating, and then we'll kind of go from there. It's a 0 to 10 rating. The first one we're going to go through is ABC. Now, ABC, luckily, is one of the better tables for this entire pack. So this table in particular is really, really good. We'll turn it up a little bit so you guys can hear it, and then we'll get started. Alright, so now, what things you do need to know about these tables in general for the Dr. Seuss tables is they're very linear. These are not like your traditional tables. These basically tell a story, and they will kind of take you through that story as you play them. It actually works out really, really well in a lot of cases, but I think over time they could be a little harder to play again and again because you're going to be playing the same modes every single time. So just something to think about when you play these games. The ABC. Sound effects kit on these are all very, very solid. Very good across the board. This one is literally ABCs, and it's pretty straightforward. It's about shooting the particular shots as you go around the table. A lot of these tables are very busy, but they're very colorful, they're very whimsical. The callouts are all really, really good in most cases. There's one in particular that I'll point out later on, but yeah, very cool games. Wonderful license for Pinball, I will say that. I think they did a fantastic job securing this license.
BCD. Hit the flashing ramp 4 times.
So you'll notice here I'm going to be instructed to hit the ABCD targets, and I have to do this all in one ball, or all in one shot. So you want to be able to do all 4 of these before you lose a ball. Otherwise, you have to do all of them again. Lots of really cool playfields. They have lots of playfields on these, lots of diversity. And as I do this, it'll tell the story, which is really quite cool. Difficult physics on these, however, so you will see that quite a bit on these. You have some bouncy physics. The tables are pretty crowded, which is probably their biggest downfall, is that most of them have they have a lot going on the lower half of the playfield. Makes them a little tougher to play. And you're seeing it already. You lost 2 balls already. Actually, 1 ball. I had a ball saved on the other one, but
hit the flashing ramp 4 times.
Ball over here.
Letter A. Aunt Annie's alligator.
You see it actually reads the part of the book as you do this. Now, if you do this in quick succession, they'll actually overlap each other, so you don't get to hear all of them, sadly. But it's just kind of how it goes.
Letter B. Barbara Baby Bubbles and a bumblebee. Letter C. Camel on the ceiling.
And there, now I've completed that bank. And then the next section will open up. And you'll notice now I have to hit E, F, G. The V is actually reserved for later in the game. And you'll notice they show them in this spot here on this for one thing, I know these are. You would think that these would be kind of kid themed, and while they may seem like a kid themed games, I will say that these are in general. Dr. Seuss tables can be quite difficult. So unless you have somebody who's younger who's really good at pinball, these are not really going to be. They're sadly not very good for kids. They're very difficult tables. They have tough physics. As I said, they're pretty crowded. So even though this is a whimsical table, it is kind of difficult to play for a younger kid. They'll get frustrated with these pretty easily. So just know that going in. They are beautiful and they do tell a story, which is really, really cool. I really like that about all the tables, but they are a little more difficult for kids. So, however, on the HD, I think these are a much better purchase proposition because you don't have access to the 4KP type of titles, all the Zen tables and stuff like that. They have some of the Kung Fu Pandas and How to Train Your Dragon games and stuff like that. The Garfields, the My Little Ponies. These Dr. Seuss tables might be something that you can play. And I think they're really good looking tables. They play really well. They're all 4K 60. You'll notice that across the board. They're all really, really good, very good looking tables. The upper playfields in this case are very accessible on this particular one. ABC is one of the better games in the pack. I would say of the tables in this pack, this is probably one of the best. I would give this an 8 out of 10. Alright, we'll move to the next one. Next up we have Fox in Socks. I don't remember. I remember reading. My kids actually had these whole books that came in the mail once a month, and we got a different Dr. Seuss book a month for quite a few times when they were young. And it was always cool to kind of go through the books and read them, and they just loved them. We read them again and again and again. Again, this table is super busy, but it actually plays pretty well, actually. So this one is in pack 1. The ABC was in pack 2. So remember, we're showing these in order of alphabetical order, but they're in separate packs. So just make sure that you pick the right pack when you're looking. Really cool sound effects, the boings and the dings and the slide whistles and things like that. That's how we started a mode. Again, very good voice acting. Sound effects kit is all really, really good.
Knocks in box.
You'll notice I completed that mode and it's going to the second one.
Knocks on box. In socks in box.
Start the second mode.
Bricks and blocks. Hit the right spinner.
And if you're interested in seeing these played out more, I actually did an entire stream on Dr. Seuss once, which covered 5 of the 7 games. So if you're interested in seeing full-length videos on these tables of me playing, trying to be pretty competitive on them, there was a whole tournament on them. So it's definitely something to watch if you're interested in seeing a little bit more.
Clocks on knobs.
Really cool. I mean, it's all Dr. Seuss fare, right? It's very much rhyming and just the really cool characters that he puts on his playfields. I mean, these are, you have some animated characters here. You know, you've got, it's very whimsical across the board. It's just, they're very lovingly created titles. I will say that. But they are generally considered pretty difficult games in general. There's a couple that are a little easier, which we'll get to. This one's not terrible. The physics are pretty clean on this one. This one, bottom half is pretty open on this one, so it's a lot easier than some of the other ones. So I actually like this one quite a bit.
And Slow Joe Crow.
Love the sound effects. It just has kind of just a cool vibe to it that you don't get with a lot of different pinball machines. I would actually love to see a Dr. Seuss table come out from Stern or Jersey Jack or something like that. I could see Jersey Jack doing it pretty easily. They've done the Toy Stories and stuff like that. Could have kind of a, you know, they did Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory and stuff like that. They'd be right up that alley for Dr. Seuss table. So, Anyway, really cool table. What would I rate this one? I give this one probably a 7.5. It's pretty good. You can actually progress through the levels pretty effectively through this one, which makes it a little funner. The harder tables, you only get through a couple modes, and it gets to be a bit of a drag at times. So this one's probably a 7.5. It's one of the better titles for sure. And I actually really appreciate this one. You can get a ton of points up at the top just by collecting books, either through the capture hole here or dropping into the target there and getting up to the top. All kinds of points up there. It's a lot of fun. So that is Fox and Sonics. Next up, we're going to go back to Green Eggs and Ham. This is a Pack 2 game. So we're going to jump into this one. This is one of the more well-known IPs, if you will. I know they're more well-known books, if you will, with the Dr. Seuss series. This game can be a little tricky, though. The orbits are pretty brutal on this one. So I do like the call-outs. Obviously, it's telling the really cool story of Green Eggs and Ham, Sam I Am, the whole bit. Really good stuff.
Do you like green eggs and ham? I do not like them, Sam I Am. I do not like green eggs and ham.
One thing I will say about this table is to start modes is very, very difficult. This shot placement over here is a very, very, very tip of the left flipper, and it makes a very tough shot. And some of the orbits can be pretty tricky. We'll see if I can't get us into a mode with a little bit of speed. You can take that shot. It's a lot easier.
Hit left and right orbits.
And then, as I said, these orbits can be pretty tricky. So, let's see if we can hit them. Again, sound effects, they're also good. Ah,
Not move.
luckily I had a ball save for that one. Whoops. Oh, and lost the ball. So, this is just kind of how it goes. And because I lost the ball, I actually have to take the shot. Yeah, there's that orbit shot that I was telling you about that can be really difficult. And I have to restart the mode, too. I do like that they have colored pinballs in this one. So they add a little bit of flair to a lot of these games. They all have a different colored pinball or something like that. It makes them a little different. Just pretty cool. In the one table, it makes it really cool. And I'll show that to you, too.
A combo.
Again, those orbits can be pretty difficult at times. Ugh. This one's much more crowded. You can see everything. There's posts all along here, and stuff is very crowded. I generally like to have about this much room on a table to be able to work and make shots and have kind of a fan layout kind of a thing. These are much more crowded tables. So with that type of layout, it makes things just that much more difficult. And again, that orbit is a very tough shot. You're going to have to fight it off a lot of times to be able to keep the ball in play. See, I was trying to take a shot for that start stage, but without a lot of motion, it's a really hard shot to get. So, and again, there's one right down the middle. We do have a center post on these to kind of help you at times. But the center post also means that there's a very big gap that you're going to have to manage. So it can be really tricky. Here the guy's going to capture the ball and throw it in there.
Ball one is locked.
And you're going to lock a ball up. And once you get 3 balls locked, you can actually do a multi-ball.
Like them here or there.
And as we progress through the levels, you'll actually go up to the house and some of the upper playfields as well. So this is a trickier game to rate just because of the difficulty of it, and it's very crowded. I will say that all of these games in general are a lot better on the HD and the micro, just because they're some of the best games you can get, sadly, without having access to some of the other ones. So I enjoyed these tables, particularly around Christmas time when you had the Grinch and different things like that. You had some really cool tables. They're very appealing to family, just because they are colorful and they have great stories and different colored pinballs and things like that. I think they're very appealing to family members just walking up to a pinball table, as opposed to seeing something like Deep Ocean or something like that that's just very generic. Amazonia, and those are better games, mind you, for the most part, but they might not be quite as appealing to your family. So anyway, if I had to rate this one, I think I would give this maybe a 5. I've really struggled to get through a lot of the modes in this. I think I've only got to maybe the 3rd or 4th mode in this ever. It can be a really tricky game. You can score some points in it with the multi-ball, but it can be a really tough go on this game. So that's what I'll rate it. We'll kind of go from there. Okay. Next up. Okay, the Grinch. I will tell you right now, the Grinch, this is the best table in both of the packs. It's in pack 1. So yes, it's going to be a little more expensive per table than the tables in pack 2. But this is the one that you're going to want. This one is a lot of fun. You can get through all the modes. They're pretty easy to get through. Even though it's super crowded, this one is very crowded. You can see that stuff is right smack dab in front of your flippers. But for some reason, this table seems to really work really well. It has a really good story mode. Obviously, it's a Christmas theme, so you're going to want to play it around the holidays. Very cool. Such an iconic story.
Only once. For a moment or two. He stuck his head out of the fireplace flue.
Hopefully you can hear that.
Where the little new stockings all hung over.
Again, callouts are very well done.
Stockings he created are the first thing to
I'm going
do.
to kick it out to the top playfield this time. You have to collect all these green spot targets. Which again, straight out the gate, this can be pretty tough for a lot of people if they're not familiar with pinball. But there you go. Got them all.
Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole
And again, a green
present.
pinball, which is pretty cool. Representing the Grinch.
On the main plate.
Getting into this upper playfield here, not upper playfield, but upper half of the playfield, I'm actually stealing presents right now as the Grinch. So the story is playing out. There you go. So I've stolen all the presents. Now I can let this ball drop out. And now I'm going to steal the food from the Who's. So you go into Whoville and you actually want to steal their food. So this shot can be pretty hard, but I'm going to try to get it with some motion. Or what you can do, what I like to do sometimes is just let this ball drain, and it'll kick it out to the top.
Not move.
So we're going to get this ball, and it's going to pop it out to the top, and it actually helps assist you with this particular mode. So now I want to hit the spinner to be able to steal this food from the Who's. Which seems very cruel. Now I've actually lost the ball down here, and I'm going to have to actually take the difficult shot that I didn't want to before. So, I thought we were going to get it there on just by bouncing around, but we got close. Nope, too soon. I just did a video on Pinball 101 on how to aim and shoot, and it's coming in very handy right now, because this is exactly the stuff that you need to learn to do to be able to take some of these shots on these more difficult Magic Pixel tables. So, we'll let this bounce across. Hopefully we can get it in there.
Do not move.
Alright, so we'll stop there. I guess what I want to really show you on this one in particular is the fact that you go through the story pretty easily. You stole the stockings, you steal the presents, you do the spinner here to steal the feast. Cindy Lou Who, you have to do a orbit a couple of times. You steal the Christmas tree, which will actually be glowing at one point. You hit the Christmas tree a few times, you steal that. Grinch's heart, you start to, that's when she breaks you down as a Grinch and you start to care about the Who people. You return the stolen goods, and then you go to, there's a Grinch's feast, which is basically a multi-ball mode. At the end, the really cool part about it is then you get a green pinball, and you actually have some surprises along with that. I won't give it away. But there's some really cool stuff at the end of this game that continues to go, and you can get some really big scores on here. It's an awesome game. This game is an absolute 10. I know it's a little crazy, but this is definitely one of the better Dr. Seuss tables. It is the best Dr. Seuss table, but it's one of the better Magic Pixel tables too, quite frankly. They put a lot of time and effort into this one, and even though it's a little crowded and it can be a little difficult, this one can be a grind, but is also very rewarding and very fun. So Grinch is a 10 for me. Very easy to endorse that table. It's very, very good. All right. Next up, we have Oh, the Places You'll Go. So Oh, the Places You'll Go is in the second pack, along with ABC and Green Eggs and Ham.
Oh, the places you'll go.
This is a lesser-known story that I know of, but it's one that the table itself is pretty good. It's a little more open. You'll notice there's a lot more open playfield. You do have some stuff that pops up in the target in the playfield that can be a little tricky. That'll hit the ball and divert it back to the bottom half. But other than that, this one's a lot more open, more playable playfield. So, good colorization. I want to note that the pinball is like a pink and gold, which is really, really cool. It has like a pink and gold kind of a sheen to it. It's half and half. I'll turn this down just a little bit so we don't lose too much audio. But you'll notice here the ball is literally split between like a pinkish metallic and a gold metallic. It just fits the theme so beautifully. I wish more tables would do that or do more types of stuff like that. I think they did a really nice job on that. Again, the storytelling is very, very good. You have the guy in the balloon flying around the table, which can be distracting at times, but for the most part, I think it's really, really good. Just add some, whimsy to the table and some movement, and just makes it feel more alive. A lot of real life pinball tables have toys and mechs and things like that are on the playfield that move and spin, and if tables didn't have that, it would be less appealing, I think. So now, again, when you're looking at this table, it seems pretty open and simple. But then you have an entire section up here at the upper left, or upper right, which is kind of covered by an upper playfield. So there are some stuff like that you're going to see here and there with a lot of these tables that have upper playfields and things that it can be a little busy for the eyes. But once you start playing the table and you realize that there's still orbits, there's still ramps, the same kind of rules apply. There's nothing too crazy about the playfields, but
Hit the flashing ejectable for fun reward.
Fun reward. Pretty cool storytelling, and again, the voice acting is quite good in most of these. There is one exception. Alright, so if I had to rate Oh, the Places You'll Go, I would give this one a 7. It's pretty solid. I actually think it's one of the better ones, to be honest. It's probably the top 3, I would think, of these tables that I like. You'd think, some of this is probably not the most popular IP, but it's one of the better games. So, anyway, I would give this a 7. It's a solid 7. I don't know how much you could have done, really, with that IP, or that book, really, to do much more with it, but it's a really good game. Alright, 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue fish. So this one is also in Pack 2. This is the final game in Pack 2. So, you really want, if you're budget-strapped, and you really have to think about which one of these 2 packs you're going to get, then it's definitely a choice to be made. You have the Grinch in the first pack, which is the better of the 2 titles. Fox and Socks is pretty good, and we haven't covered Cat in the Hat yet. So, but pack 2 is pretty good. You do have ABC, you have all the places you can go, and I actually like Red Fish, Blue Fish quite a bit too, and we'll go over that one here too. Again, a lesser known book, really, but my kids really enjoyed this one. Particularly my younger daughter, she really appreciated this one quite a bit. So it was a lot of fun. She loved this Gak. He actually causes trouble on this table. He's got these huge antlers, and he tips his head, and he'll actually block off a couple of different things here and there. So it adds a little bit to it. You'll notice here when I plunge the ball, it's got red metallic on one side and blue metallic on the other. So again, it has that cool kind of chrome look to it. There, the Gak just actually blocked the ramp that I wanted to hit. The lucky spinner. So he causes all kinds of trouble and makes it kind of fun. Good music. Again, you have all these wonderful sound effects from slide whistles to boings and bops and dings and dangs and all this crazy stuff. Very cool.
Ball is safe. Do not move.
The DMDs on this are all very good, I think. Yes, there's swirls and triangles and stuff, which are not very well received for the most part. But I think when you're playing on the HD systems and even on the micro, the big lettering and the, just it works so much better on the HD and micro than it does on the 4K. The 4K, they could have done a lot more on them, I guess, but when you're trying to make these cross-platform like they did, I think they did a really nice job on them. So, and unlike some of the more modern tables where they're doing spaceships and, different things, the whimsical triangles and squares and swirls on these actually fit the theme, where they don't really do that on a lot of other tables. So, I can see where the DMDs are getting a lot of hatred in many other games. For the Dr. Seuss tables, I think they do a pretty good job. There's nothing too crazy about them. Apologize for these bumpers. They are very loud on the 4KP. Hopefully they're not too overpowering on the audio. But
Fish, redfish, bluefish. Hit the flashing slingshots 5 times.
now, slingshots are always hard to hit. It's these guys tier 2. But we'll stop here. But this table, what I would give this table, I would probably give this one I think I would give this a 7. I would give this one a 7. It's got some fun to it. It actually has this nice flipper here, which actually allows you to do a couple different shots, which you don't get to do on other games. It just adds a little bit to it. You don't use this toy section until about the 3rd level. I think it's the Wump of Gump. You have to do this kind of toy section here. There's some really good stuff up in the upper playfield later in the game. This one's a lot of fun. So, yeah, that's what I would rate it. And I think it's a pretty fun table. The music's pretty mild and really fits the theme pretty well, I think. So, and then lastly, we talk about Cat in the Hat. Now, this is probably one of the most recognizable books of the entire Dr. Seuss series. So, this one I have a lot of disappointment in, because the Cat in the Hat is, it had a movie come out and everything else. This should be one of the better pinball tables, and in fact, it is not. This table can be absolutely brutal. It is a very crowded playfield. You have posts directly in front. But my biggest complaint about this particular table is this upper playfield. This upper playfield here is all about time to clean up. It's the very last section of the game, and you will never use this upper playfield at all through the most part of the game. So it's really it's deceiving to have that take up that much space and really not be used for the most part. The shots are very difficult on this. There's this, you'll hear the slide whistle with the fish in the dish. But anyway, we'll get into it and get to see. I think the callouts in this one are a little worse. Some of them are very the inflection in his voice, or I'm trying to think of, is it the right word? It's very. There's a spot where they'll go, hit flashing spot targets, and it just sounds terrible. And some of those callouts are they're really, really forced, and I love the ball in this one. It's a red and white striped ball, just like the hat, so that's really cool. Sound effects are really good. The dynamic lighting in all of these tables is so good. Magic Pixel does an amazing job with dynamic lighting, and then the 4K 60 graphics. Obviously on the HD they're 1080p, but they still look very crisp, very clean. But the ball is like this absolute chrome with like this red and white stripes on it. It just looks so good. Or like it's basically red stripes with like a chrome ball, and it just looks so good. The storytelling on this one's pretty good, but again the callouts are not that good. I actually got into a multi-ball amazingly quickly, which is super rare on this table to be sure. But, it is only a 2-ball multi-ball, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's interesting. It does not happen a lot. Modes are pretty easy to get into. You actually shoot the box underneath the cat here. Sound effects are really good. You hear the slide whistle when that ball kicks out from the fishing dish, which we said. Spinners all sound really good. This one really disappointed me because it just has so much potential, but it's such a difficult game.
And then something went bump. How the That bump made us jump.
Hit flashing drop targets.
There's an example of the call out that just drives me crazy. It seems very forced to me. And some of the shots on this are very difficult. There's orbit shots which put the ball in harm's way around the center post. And then there's these shots here, the F and the I, and then the S and H for fish. These shots here during the mode are very, very hard to hit. They're very, 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 very tip of the flipper. And Magic Pixel has a knack of really putting a lot of stuff on their playfields instead of just opening it up and making it a little easier. And again, if you're trying to get these to appeal to kids, like, they're going to be appealing visually to kids, but they're not going to want to play this very long when they're getting their butt kicked by the ball going down the drain all the time. So you want something that's a little easier, a little more playful, or a little more playable. So this table really suffers from a lot of that. That said, it can be a very rewarding table. Obviously, the storytelling is quite good, but it's a very difficult table. So this one I really struggled with because, I had high expectations and was met with disappointment most times. So this one I'm only going to give a 5. Like, it's a very playable table. You can definitely play it, but you're going to have some level of frustration with it. It can be very difficult. And if you don't like that slide whistle, you better get used to it because you're going to hear it a lot. So, but this one I'm going to give a 5. I really struggle to want to play this game because of the upper playfield, taking up basically 33% of the entire playfield that you're not actually going to be using at any point. Some of the callouts are pretty poor, and then of course the difficulty of the game really helps it to suffer. So that is Cat in the Hat. And with that is the review of all the Dr. Seuss tables for the Atgames 4K and HD systems. Now, if you had to talk about the pack values, I would think, in general, that the value proposition would be to go with Pack 2, whether that's $35 or $30, depending on your system that you're buying it for, because you're going to get ABC, All the Places You'll Go, and Redfish Bluefish. I don't particularly care for Green Eggs and Ham all that much, although it is still a pretty good table. It's not terrible, it's just that the orbits can be really difficult, and I've shown that as well. And the start mode shot can be pretty difficult on that one. However, you're missing out on the best table of all of them if you don't buy Pack 1 in the Grinch. So that makes it really, really difficult. And by saddling the Grinch with the Cat in the Hat, the worst table of all of them, with a 5, with a 10, you really have to determine whether or not you want to have all of the tables all together or not. Now, again, you can get these for $60 or you can pay the $70 for the HD, but that's a lot of money for these tables. Yes, you're going to be playing these tables forever, so you do have to think of it that way. Is it a value to you over time? Yes, I think it is, especially if you have any fans of Dr. Seuss. If you're like me, I'm in my late 40s, and I grew up reading these books to my kids, and it was something that I absolutely had to have. These came out when all I had was an HD, and I absolutely adored them. I played and played and played these games to death and loved them. So, but looking back now, it's a much tougher sell to buy these games now. If you do have a 4K, you could go get a Garfield or a My Little Pony or How to Train Your Dragon or even a Kung Fu Panda, which is a terrible game. But those games are going to be more appealing to most folks than some of these ones here. They're a little more difficult, they're much more linear, they're a little harder to get into. But if I had to buy these packs, so Pack 1, I think I would rate, it's a tough sell. I think it's maybe a 7 for the pack, just because of Cat in the Hat. Fox and Socks is pretty good, I like that game. And I like the Grinch, which is the best one in the bunch. So maybe I could probably push it to an 8, despite the Cat in the Hat, but you're paying a lot of money for Fox and Socks and the Grinch at that point. So it really makes it tough. For Dr. Seuss Pack 2, I think that one's a lot better value proposition. I could give that one an 8 pretty easily. ABC is a really fun game. You actually can get into a groove on that one and actually really enjoy it. All the Places You Can Go is pretty fun. And Redfish, Bluefish, One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish is actually really, really fun as well. And that GAT can be really fun and makes your kids laugh and stuff like that. So I hope you enjoyed this review of Dr. Seuss's Pinball. These are whimsical, fun tables, but also have a level of difficulty. So just know that going in, and I think you can, if you know that going in, I think you can appreciate them a lot more for what they are. Thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll have a lot more reviews in the future. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Retro Tech.